S&P 500 rally faces $11 trillion gauntlet of big tech earnings. The headline tells us the story, but we're braced for a very, very concentrated and busy period.
Yeah, it's true. So we have Wednesday and Thursday are the big days this week. And honestly, we're going to see a little bit of the bifurcation, I think, that we've seen in the Mag 7 this year really play out this week. So on Wednesday, we have Microsoft and Meta, which have been two of the biggest point leaders on the S&P and really driven the rally, especially from sort of that April trough that we saw. Those are going to report on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we have Apple and Amazon. And these two companies have been under a little bit more scrutiny. Investors aren't quite as sure. Amazon, I think, is about flat on the year, while Apple stock has rallied a lot from April. It's down about 15% year to date. So people will really be watching to see, especially what they say about AI, what their plan is for using artificial intelligence going forward, and also what the impact is with China. They are the company that has the most exposure, especially out of the Magnificent Seven.
So can you, Carmen, detail a little bit of how investors are going into this week? We know that hedge funds have actually been dialing back some of their exposure to some of the big tech names because they have been such winners and because valuations are so high. Have we seen a little bit of more caution coming into this?
I think so. I mean, the bar is set so incredibly high. And something that's interesting is that earnings expectations have actually come in a little bit for this group of companies from the last report. I think they're expected to deliver earnings growth of about 16% quarter over quarter, down from 19%. So there is a little bit of a lower bar in terms of like clearing it. But that makes it all the more important that these companies do beat and raise, especially to extend the rally in their stocks. They really have to prove that they can deliver and that their valuations are worth, paying for. As you said, they're very stretched. Some of these companies are at or near all-time highs. But we also have a second group of companies that are not. Like I just said, Apple, is still 15% off its all-time high. Amazon is off its record high. Those companies also, though, have to deliver, and they could be really important to extending the rally in the S&P. Apple is one of the biggest companies in the index. And so if it, think about where we could be if it were to pick back up and sort of see a reinvigoration in its stock. So people are definitely really watching the earnings this week. And I think just there is a very high bar, as always, for these companies.
Carmen, just give me a little bit more on those latter points. There's two charts in the story about the points contribution of the key names to the upside and the downside, which I think is a beautiful illustration of the story, but also profit estimates Mag 7 stripped out from the S&P 500. Mm-hmm. That just sets a really high bar. Like, what if it all goes wrong for Microsoft later in the week? Then at the index level, we're going to have some, I don't know, let's call it turmoil.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we know that these companies are the heaviest weighted. They are the biggest point gainers. So Microsoft and Meta, I think, are 2 and 3, NVIDIA being number 1. So, of course, there could be huge ramifications if these companies don't deliver. We've also seen from last week with Alphabet and Tesla that companies that do beat and raise are getting rewarded. They're seeing their shares go up, while companies that don't are getting punished by investors. They're, selling off. So it's super important going forward, and it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out.